Hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome to the Project Van Life Summit. I am Jim.
And I'm Kara.
And we are with the Hocking Adventure Bus. So today we are going to be talking to you guys about full-time schoolie life with the family. So we've been on the road for 2 years now. We love what we're doing. We love talking about it. We're passionate about it. So we're really excited for this opportunity to talk to you guys today. So we're going to go ahead and just get right into it. So agenda. So we got a lot to try to cover with you guys. We're going to do our best to cover everything that we've learned as to travel successful as a family over the last 2 years. We've made a lot of mistakes. We found some pretty cool things out as well. And then we are going to leave a lot of time at the end for questions. So if anybody has questions, type them in the comment section throughout, and then we'll do our best to answer them. Or if we don't get them answered while we're presenting, we'll answer them at the end of our presentation. So getting into the agenda here. So first, we're going to talk about how we got here. Basically, like kind of what led up to our decision to travel full time in a schoolie as a family. So how we reached that decision, kind of what we did to make it happen, the time frame and what we did to make it happen. We're going to talk about some of the ways we downsized our life, getting the kids prepared, all the way up to the trip. Being that we're 2 years into the trip now, we're going to transition from there over and kind of what the highs and lows have looked like for the trip, what our must-haves are in our schoolie, the things we can't live without that you probably wouldn't want to live without either if you do this type of lifestyle. Some camping resources we use to find free camping. Homeschool, we're going to talk a little bit about homeschool. That's a question that we get asked a lot about from other families that are looking into do this lifestyle. And then at the end, we're going to just kind of summarize some different keys to success that we've had along the way. So we'll go ahead and move into the presentation here. Let me see. I think we got the comments. Okay, there we go. Sorry, just want to make sure we had the comments up so we could see them. So just a little bit about us and our family, kind of how we got here again. So we are a family of 6. So we made the decision to sell our house back in July of 2021. So we hit the road. Actually, today it's been 783 days since we left our house in Iowa back in July 26, 2021. It's crazy how fast it's gone and how much we've covered and just the adventures we've had and how much we've grown as a family since then. We've traveled over 60,000 miles across the country. We've hit all 48 lower states now. The only ones we have left to hit now are Alaska and Hawaii. We've been to 42 national parks, which is just incredible. Tons of national monuments, state parks, all these other recreational areas too. We've cities, we've been all over the place, done it all. We've had 206 different backyards, which is really cool because our scenery has got to change so often, and with the space and the places we found to camp in, which we'll talk a little bit about later, we've absolutely loved it and not got bored. Then the other thing we want to talk about is, or the other thing to mention is that we've camped for free almost 75% of the time since we left. So we really try to travel on a budget, and we are always looking for free places to stay. Trying to, what do I want to say here?
Trying to do it cheap.
Yeah, trying to do it cheap,
experiences, yes. But not blow our budget. So we're very mindful of how we spend our money and how we can continue to travel this way and have the experiences that we have. So, tell us, how did we get here?
Yes. So how did we get here? We love kind of talking about this because it was definitely a journey for us. It's not like we just decided one day, hey, let's sell everything and move into a bus. So the first thing I'll say that what first got us really even into this conversation was about 10 years ago. In my old sales job, I used to be in sales. I read a book called The 4-Hour Work Week. And in that book, it talked about mini retirements and basically just how instead of waiting until you're 65 and working your whole life away to hope that you have this nest egg when you retire someday, and then you make it to that age, and then 2, you actually have the ability and the energy and to do all the things you want to do. It said, why do that? Why not take a little bit of time in the middle of your life or take several breaks throughout your life and have little mini vacations where you can do things in the prime of your life and you can do them with the people you love. So we have 4 children that were growing fast, and it just kind of got us, we really started talking about it about 10 years ago, just as this would be really cool if we could do this, right? So advanced 10 years, or not quite 10 years, advanced back to about when COVID started. So our kids were starting to get older. We had crazy lives, we were living the American dream. We had just built a 4,500 square foot house that was taking up a lot of our time and energy, just maintaining the place, working on it. We're rushing kids from activities all over to different activities. And our third kid was just getting into some activities. I was traveling a lot for work. We just had really crazy lives, and we really just felt like we weren't spending quality time together as a family. It was just every day we'd come home and we'd run to a sporting event. A lot of times we were completely split up. And again, we were together, but we weren't really spending quality time. And, and I especially with traveling a lot for work, I just felt like time was passing me by and I was letting these years slip away, and I didn't want that to happen. So you have anything
and then COVID hit. And when COVID hit, I think Jim was working from home at that time, and we made the decision to homeschool our kids. So we'd already had this idea in our head. And then we started to really, we're in Iowa in the middle of winter, it's freezing cold. And we just started looking and thinking, why not? This is the perfect time. He's working remote. The kids are home. We're literally doing everything here in Iowa that we can do on the road. We didn't need to be stuck in this house in Iowa. We loved our house. It was beautiful, but it became overwhelming for us. And so we were looking for a change in a simple lifestyle. And our daughter was 12 at the time. So that realization of, holy smokes, she has limited summers here that we're going to have with her. So why not now? We said, worst case scenario, if this doesn't work out, right? I think it can be scary and intimidating for people to try this, but our thought process was, why not? Why not give this a try? And as scary as it is, we knew that, yes, if we sell our house, we can't come back to our house, but we can come back to our life as it was before. We didn't think that was going to be the case. We were pretty confident that we were going to find something that we loved and that was remarkable and was different and we enjoyed, but we knew worst case scenario, we come back. So that's always one of the things that we ask each other, what's the worst thing that can happen? And in this case, the worst thing that can happen is we don't like it and we sell our bus and we go back and we buy a house in Iowa.
And we think that way a lot now with a lot of our decisions. It's just that I read about it in a book called How to Stop Worrying and Start Living. But a lot of people are so afraid to do things, and really a lot of times it's only themselves holding themselves back, right? So you think about what is the worst that can happen in a lot of your life decisions. A lot of things, the worst that can happen is you fail, right? And if you fail, you can say you tried it. It's a lot better than saying, I wish I would have done it and I never did. So we had all those discussions, and then we finally said, you know what, let's do it. Let's start looking into it. So
yep. So how did that happen? So once we were seriously considering this, I created a spreadsheet. I called it the Road to Freedom at the time. That was just in my head. And I started plugging in and budgeting essentially. So I put down all of our expenses, how are we living right now? What was our mortgage payment? What was our car insurance like? What were our food bills? And then started to project. And of course, I didn't know anything at the time. I was projecting based off, reading, doing some stuff on the internet and figuring out, what do I think we're going to spend on internet? What are we going to spend on healthcare? How much are we going to spend on diesel? And just started to side by side, put these things down and figured out pretty quickly that if everything went according to plan, we're going to be money ahead. Coming from this huge house, moving into this bus, we're cutting a lot of our expenses because you don't have mortgage, you don't have taxes, property taxes, we didn't have utility bills, all of these things.
Multiple car payments, all the kid activities, all the other, all those other life expenses that you just have.
Yep. So you simplify your life. And so that was where it all started. Once we had those numbers, we were feeling good about that. We started searching for a Skoolie at the time. I came across Skoolie life. I think probably on YouTube is where it all started for me. And we talked about building a bus. Lots of people build these beautiful buses and do remarkable things. And as much as we would love to do that, time was our biggest barrier at that point. We knew, as Jim said before, we have 4 kids. We were running them to sporting activities all the time. We were working on a rental property that we own. We didn't have the spare time. And our fear was if we spent 2 years building this bus, that our daughter is going to be even older and this may not happen. So for us, it was, once we made that decision, we were thinking, how do we get on the road as soon as possible? And that's when we started looking for a bus that was already built. Yep. So it was about a year.
Yep.
of
Yeah,
searching.
before we started seriously looking to finally finding it. Yeah.
Yep. Just because, finding something that's going to work for a family of 6, we knew Jim's going to talk a little bit about that later. Some of our wants, such as solar and water and just logistical things. So it did take us a while. At one point, we actually started looking at RVs
and fifth wheels, and we kind of had given up. We just couldn't find a Skoolie. And I remember we had a lot of talks, and I remember just trying to think positively. And we were talking one night, I'm like, you know what, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen. And if it's not, again, worst case scenario, we find another way to travel, because it wasn't really about the bus. It was about the adventure. And about that time, what do you know? The bus popped up, right? The bus that we ended up buying, it was at 6 a.m. on a Sunday morning, end of February, 2021. Kara elbowed me, woke me up, said, I found our bus. And it all went from there. By the end of the day, we had talked to the owners, asked them the questions, did our due diligence, and decided, you know what, we got to take advantage of this opportunity. We actually had a meeting with our kids as well, and said, this is what we're thinking about doing. We made sure to get their buy-in, and then we flew to Salt Lake City, Utah, picked up a bus that had just been converted, and we drove it back to Iowa, me and Kara.
Yep.
So we actually have a YouTube video that kind of walks through what that adventure looked like, if you want to check that out. But
yeah. Nope. So we got the bus, and Jim will talk later a little bit about the kids' involvement in that. But we decided before putting everything up for sale that we would do a trial run. So we had the bus, we were excited to get on a vacation. So within a couple months, we booked a vacation down. Wouldn't even say booked. We
just left.
We just left Iowa in the bus, decided, let's go give this a try. So we had a couple weeks. We went down to Texas. Very little planning, had the bus, we're not towing a car. And we went on this trip, and we looked at each other, and everybody was having a great time. We had packed for this trip, and we were sitting there and we're like, what else do we need? Yeah. We literally had everything in the bus at that point. And one thing we've always tried to focus on is what we need versus what we're getting rid of. We did that with the kids too. And yes, we had great stuff back in our house in Iowa, and we had a lot of stuff, but we didn't need that stuff. We had everything that we need there to live a simple life. And so after that, it was a fairly quick process of starting to sell things, clear out our house, downsizing. So this was one of the most tedious tasks. So we had this huge house, and like most people, we had collected a lot of stuff over the years. It makes me sick to look back and think how much money that we had spent on stuff. Yeah. Everything
we
in
didn't
our
throw
life.
it away either. We would just, when we're done using it, we'd put it away thinking, oh, maybe we'll use it someday, till we had these storage rooms just full of things we didn't use or want. I'm sure a lot of you guys can relate. That's what happens to a lot of people that were in our situation, is they accumulate just so many things, and then they don't get rid of it because they think, what if I need it? Right. So
stuff was so important in our life at that time. We've done a complete 360 on that, and our life has changed so much for the better in that aspect. 180, not 360. I don't know. I was spinning in circles. So downsizing. So we wanted this to happen fairly quickly. Our daughter was playing softball, so our goal was to be out of there in a couple months. When she was done, we wanted to get up to a Skoolie event in Michigan. So we had this goal in mind to be out of there by July 26th of 2021. And Jim was working full time at the time from home, and I was put in charge of downsizing, essentially. So how did we do that? It was actually a pretty slick process. And like I said before, focusing on what we need versus what we're getting rid of. I think that was something we would just set things aside of, we know we need this for the bus. We know we need this for our life. Don't focus on the things that you're getting rid of. So we started making categories of stuff. So we had piles. So we would have the bus pile, a sell pile, a donate pile, and then trash. So just trying to think through all of those things. So how did we do this process? Marketplace, Facebook Marketplace was one of the ways, but that can be tedious if you've ever sold anything online. So my solution was to create a Facebook group. So I made this little Facebook group, told our story on there, put pictures on there, and started inviting people into this group. So a lot of it was our local community, lots of neighbors, friends, people that we knew that we were getting rid of our stuff. And it was nice stuff, right? This was stuff that you needed for your house. So I created this group and we started posting. Another thing before I get into that, we also sold a lot of the things with our house. So because we were selling our house and these people were moving in, we basically tagged everything. So when we were going through that process, we had an offer on the house. They went through and tagged everything that they wanted. And so we didn't have to get rid of everything because they were buying things. So they were getting stuff that belonged in the house. It was win-win for everybody. We didn't have to be hauling things out. We didn't have to sell it. And I think it was win-win for everybody. So yeah, for me, I would post things on this group. I had my own little set of rules that I could use, and quick picture, put a description. People had to pick up quick. And, I was out in the garage working every day on all of our stuff. So people would just come in and they would pick up stuff, and it just made it a super slick process. So if there's a way, that you can create something like that, it's just easier than working through Marketplace. Garage sales can be okay too, but for us, we thought best value and quickest process was just to do this group.
Yeah. And like Kara said, it worked really slick. I mean, we'd be posting things. She'd be posting several things a day. People would be saying mine sold, coming to pick them up. We'd be getting rid of stuff out of the garage. Then we'd be taking stuff out of the house, back into the garage, taking pictures of it again. It was almost like an assembly line of just getting rid of our stuff. And we started with storage, and then as it got closer, it was all the rest of the stuff. It was kids, the toys, furniture, everything. And
it felt good.
It did. I was just going to say, it felt amazing actually to be getting rid of all of it. It just felt like weight coming off your shoulders as we were unloading all these things, right? So
stuff we had held on for so long. And I think people at this time were starting to feel bad for us. And, the whole process of, are you okay? And, you're getting rid of all your stuff. And it was the most relief that I could feel, was just getting this stuff out of the house, getting rid of it. We'd held on to it for way too long, spent way too much money on it. So we felt good about it. Automating bills and mail was another part of downsizing. We started to really think about everything we needed, and what were these bills going to look like coming forward. We tried to narrow down our mail. We use a mail service now called Traveling Mailbox, which is where all of our mail goes to. That's a question we get a lot. So they get all of our mail, they scan it in, they get rid of junk mail. So we started ahead of that process, just trying to, automate things when we can, bill pay things, and just make things super simple. Yep. Essentially simplify your life, which we wished even before we did Bus Life, we should have simplified our life. It would have made everything so much easier, from getting rid of the stuff, the bills, whatever that is. It just felt good to have a simple life.
Yes, for sure. All right. So not only were we downsizing our things, but we were trying to prepare ourselves and our family and our 4 kids for a whole new way of life and a new adventure. So being that we're talking about Skoolie life as a family, we wanted to really talk about how we got the kids involved and how we, how we went about making this transition with 4 kids. So.
Yep. So number one is getting buy-in. This isn't us uprooting our kids and going on an adventure that they didn't want to go on. It was important for us that, this is family. This is the whole reason we were doing this, was to be with our kids, to spend more time with them, and to show them the country. We wanted to see the country, but we really wanted to show our kids the country. So, from day one with the bus, there was some hesitation. Our daughter was 12 years old at the time, and she was in sports and she had friends, and she struggled the most with this idea of, can I be happy doing this? I don't want to leave my friends. I don't want to leave softball. I don't want to leave these things. So that was important. But before we even bought the bus, we talked to them and said, this is what we're thinking. What do you guys think? Are you guys on board? Should we do this? So it really felt like this was a group decision. It wasn't one of, us deciding and saying, all right, kids, this is what we're doing.
And I should add too that the initial agreement or the initial decision was we were going to do it for a year. So we were like, let's take a 1-year trip. And that changed obviously after we got going. But initially the agreement was, hey, everybody, we're going to do a 1-year trip. We're going to see as much as we can. And then,
and evaluate. I mean, I think that was Jim and I were hoping that, this was going to work out and this was going to be great. And the kids were going to be on board and we would reevaluate that. So I'll tell you that it took about 5 months for our daughter to completely buy into it. She was having fun, but she still missed her friends and life and, had changes. I should say it took 5 minutes to admit that she was enjoying it. Yeah. So I think she realized right away that, oh yeah, this is cool. I'm getting to spend time with my parents, my family. I'm getting to see these cool places, but she didn't want to admit it for a while.
And the key was, we'll talk about it a little bit later too, but like friends. And so like her making new friends on the road was kind of what really sealed the deal for her, saying, yeah, I want to keep doing this. I love it. So,
yep. So we just kept involving the kids, we had that commitment from them, but the packing process, we gave them, again, back to the mentality of focus on what you want to keep versus focus on what you're getting rid of. So the first thing we did is the kids got to pick what was in their bunk bed. So each kid has their own bunk bed, their own little cubby, plugins, outlets in the bus. And we let them choose how they set that up. So they got to figure out, and plan out how they wanted their room to look. We got lights in their rooms. They picked their favorite toys to fit in there. So it just felt like they were doing that and we weren't forcing anything or forcing them to get rid of toys. But then the packing too and the selling, they were involved in too, or the downsizing, from selling their toys, sorting through things. They were really just great about that.
They made Ziploc bags full of Legos and they sold them for like $5 a piece and they made a killing on it because we had tons of Legos and they had fun with it. They were cool. They were totally cool getting rid of it because they were getting money for it. So
and then the planning process, we talked about from the beginning, and we didn't have a concrete plan when we took off. We thought we were heading to Yellowstone, and then we weren't really sure where life was going to go west. Yep. But the whole planning process, we talked about national parks, which has been a huge part of our journey. And the kids knew that that was something that was important to us. They didn't know much about national parks. We had been on one trip, I guess, for Jim's birthday.
Yeah, we had gone to the Smoky Mountains, and that was like the last trip we took before we really decided, let's do this. And everybody just loved it. The hiking,
it was one of their favorite vacations ever was to the Smoky Mountains, pre-bus life. And so so we just continued to, and we still continue to involve them in the process. Where do they want to go? What friends do they want to see? So I think the more you can involve your kids and be one unit and be a team, the more successful you're going to be. Being positive and excited. I mean, obviously this was not the norm, right? People thought we were crazy. We know they did, but we are. But we were excited. Everybody was excited. It just sounded like something completely off the wall, but the opportunities and the things that we were going to get to do because of this, I don't know. It was exciting. I think they got excited and enjoyed telling people about it. So
yes. No, and that's what I think helped it go well, is because everybody was excited. The day we left, I mean, we were a little sad, but we were also just ridiculously excited as well. So speaking of which, so we took off, advanced now 783 days later. So as far as the actual journey itself, that's a whole nother discussion for another day, or you can go to our social media page and see all of our journey that you want. But really just, we wanted to share a little bit about kind of what our highs are and the lows were of 2 years of travel, kind of some things we really appreciated and really like versus some things that were challenging that we probably want to make you guys aware of in case you're looking into doing something like this yourself. So first, the highs. So I mean, experiences and opportunities, absolutely ridiculous. We have experienced so much together as a family. We've created so many memories. We've had, climbed mountains, we've surfed, we've had adventures, paddle boards, water adventures. We've been to tons of museums, big cities, like everything. I feel like we've done it all, but we've also only scratched the surface a little bit. So education opportunities were huge. And then part of the opportunities also, as we got bigger with our social media presence, as we started getting more opportunities with brands, people reaching out to us, like we had a beach cleanup party we got invited to go do. That was really fun. So a lot of opportunities that just came from just the fact that people knew we were traveling around the country in a bus. So education opportunities, freedom, I'd say.
Freedom. That's one of the things that we appreciate most about this lifestyle is, you know, we don't have to do things any certain way. We have the freedom to, you know, for example, we try to avoid the parks on the weekends. So we'll do school on the weekends and choose to do some more educational stuff so that we can go explore during the week when everybody else is running their typical Monday to Friday work schedule.
Yep.
And
if the weather's bad, or if we know there's going to be it's just different than our old mentality of planning a vacation. Like you have 1 week and you're here and you got to do it all. And if it rains, it doesn't matter. You got to do it. Well, in this lifestyle, it's like, okay, you know what? We're just gonna wait.
Yeah.
We'll just wait a day and we'll do it another day, or whatever that looks like. We had a lot of opportunity and freedom to get there, to go when it was best to go. So
yep. But just overall, just having this freedom in our life and flexibility and Speaking of weather, the weather, that's one of the best parts for us. I hate cold. I don't like winter. I don't like snow. And so we chase the weather.
Yep. And being from Iowa, like anyone from the Midwest can also probably relate, it gets really cold and the weather's really bad in the wintertime. A lot of times you go in our old neighborhood, like everybody would go inside from like November to April, right?
Yeah.
You wouldn't see anybody because it'd be too cold and miserable to go outside. So we were like, why do we want to spend 6 months, however many months out of the year inside? Why can't we just be in good weather all the time, right? So this allows us to do that.
Yep. Quality time. So, like we said before, we had time together, but the time looked a lot different. So it would be Jim taking 2 kids to a basketball tournament in one town, and I'm taking another kid to another town for another activity. So it just felt like we were constantly being split up as a family. We weren't having time with our kids. If it wasn't for homeschool, I would have barely seen my kids because they were so involved. Jim was still working. He was working from home, but he had his own little area. So we still didn't see much of him. He traveled for work. So we just never really felt like we were getting that quality time with our kids and having those experiences because we were just too busy. So it was a big change for us.
Yes. And then, I'd say relationships was another big thing. And I'd probably say 2 parts there. So one, the relationships with each other. So with our family that we've grown and built, go live in a bus for 2 years with your family and see how close you get. I mean, you're in each other's space all the time. Sometimes it's bad, but overall it's been great. Like we've got to see our kids grow up. We've got to see them be passionate about different things. It's great to hear them talk about the experiences they've had with others. So, and then relationships with other people. So we're from Iowa. We traveled a little bit, but we weren't, we didn't get out a lot. There's not a lot of diversity in Iowa. We've been all over the country. We've met people from all over, traveling, full-time travelers, as well as people in the areas that we visited. And we've met people from even all over the world that have come over to the United States to do this lifestyle. So just the amount of relationships that we've built from all over has just been incredible.
Yep. And the kids keep in touch. And we'll talk a little bit later about that too, but they have friends that they've met on the road and they keep in touch through social media or text message or FaceTime or whatever it is. And we look forward to meeting back up with these people. So relationships amongst our family and then with people outside of our family it's a huge part of our life and our travels right now. So
yep,
it's been awesome.
So real quick, I'll take a quick break for a couple of comments. So Kate, you asked about education. Cool. So we're going to cover that in a little bit. So hold that thought. And then caravanning, we'll talk a little bit about that too, but yes, we take advantage of that whenever we can have the kids and we're traveling with people and they're having adventures together with other friends. It makes it that much better. So
yeah, we actually met a family of Vida Vera, our day to a bus life. We went to an event up in Michigan and hit it off with this family. We then met them in Yellowstone. We then met them out in Oregon. We met them in California. Then we traveled together, Arizona, Utah, Colorado. So absolutely, we love meeting other families. That's important to us. It's an important part of our success and keeping our children and ourselves happy. So anytime that we can get together and caravan with other people, we're absolutely up for it. So.
And Inked in Color, in Michigan, it was up at Gold City, Michigan. It was up in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, and the event was called Skoolie UP. So we've gone to it now. We just went there for they had their third year. They just had it in August. We've been there 3 years in a row. It's probably our favorite event. Our kids love it, and it's beautiful up there that time of year in Michigan, minus mosquitoes.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about the lows, not just the mosquitoes, but so there's lows too, and it's good. I think we need to just bring them up because they're challenges we've experienced, and they're things you want to think about as well. So first off, mechanical issues. So I'm not a mechanic by any means. So a bus is it's a big complex thing, right?
Heavy machinery.
So
Yep.
if you know how to do that work, absolutely great. You're going to be at a big advantage. We don't. So we've had some mechanical issues, and as cheap as you can buy old buses, they're expensive to fix. It just is what it is. So we budgeted because we read a lot about this with other families that have done this. We budgeted to have kind of that fund in case we needed it, and we've had 2 major issues in 2 years go wrong with our bus that we've had to fix. So it does happen. It happened to us. Again, we planned for it. It stunk, but we weren't going to let it bring us down. And now we also look at it as investments. Now our bus, the things we did to it, it's that much better now than it was before. So healthcare, that's a challenge just because I went basically from having benefits in my job to not. So we had to find healthcare, which we have a short-term medical plan that we had found, but then just in general to doctors, knowing where to go, like looking up in network, out of network. When you're traveling all over the place, it's just,
you never
it's
know
new.
where
you don't
you're
have
at.
your regular doctor and your place to go. So we just had to navigate through that, which we have, but it is a challenge.
We've had 2 or 3, I don't know, major issues. Actually, we're up in New York, and our son had to have his appendix removed. So, we're in a new place, didn't know what hospital to go to, knew nothing. But we figured it out. It's not something that's going to keep us from traveling. You just have to know in your mind that things are going to come up. You're going to face challenges, but we always say it's how you handle those challenges. It's all about your mentality. And we always have the mindset of, we're going to get through this. It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. So we've had stitches, we've had falls. Our daughter broke her wrist this summer.
Yeah.
So
luckily we were back in Iowa when that happened. But
yes, that definitely can be a tricky one. Cost of diesel.
Yep. That's kind of one of those uncontrollable. We can't control what the cost of gas is. We can control how often we drive the bus, but we made the decision that, we're on this adventure right now. We're going to go see the things. And if we have to spend a little more on diesel, we have to, right? So now that we've been to all 48 states, we've rethought that a little bit. We can travel a little bit more and have control a little bit more, because if you don't drive, you don't spend money on diesel. But again, it's kind of,
got to decide.
Give and take, right? And then being away from family, that's been tough. But what I'll say about that, I'll say 2 things on that. One, when you're used to being close to family and they're right there and you can get to them quickly, you get used to that convenience. But I will also say that the quality time that we've had, so, minus seeing my parents for like a baseball game or something over the years, and not spending that much time together. We're back in Iowa when we visit them for the summer. We're with them for 2 solid weeks. We stayed with them. Her family we've been staying with, so we get a lot more time. It's just in a chunk, right? It's all at once. But I also think that we've actually spent more time, I think, with our family in the last year than we did in the previous year before we left, if that makes sense.
Yep. The last low, everything takes work and everything is always changing. And that's just true with this lifestyle. And it can be exhausting. We are always planning for a new place to stay. In the past 2 years, we have been on the move pretty hard. We were pretty aggressive our first 2 years of travel, and we all got exhausted. Everybody was ready for a break this summer when we got back to Iowa to see friends and family, because it was exhausting. We were constantly moving. We didn't stay anywhere too long. You're always having to think about filling up water. Where am I going to dump my tanks at? Where are we going to stay? How far are we traveling today? Where are we going to get groceries? All these things in the area locations are always changing. So.
And the dishes are always in the sink.
And
no
the dishes.
How many times I do them, we don't have a dishwasher in the bus. We cook most of our meals. Like, I'm always doing dishes. That's like my full-time job, I feel like. So.
Yep. So there's sacrifices in bus life for sure. I always say that in bus life, the highs are like the best of the highs that you're ever going to have. We've had some of the best memories and the best experiences, but you also experience the lowest of the lows in bus life.
Yeah.
So you've got this extreme, the best of the best, but then, you know, the lows can be pretty
Really
darn difficult.
Yeah.
Our kids have been troopers though, through the whole breakdowns. And, you know, once again, we make it fun. It is what it is. We stayed in a tent one time. We've stayed in a cabin. We communicate with our kids and let them know what's going on, but you get through it.
Yes.
So.
Yep. Ink and Color, you had a question. Do you guys store anything like mementos? Yes, we do. We don't have very much. We thought about getting a storage unit stuff when we left. We stored everything we wanted to keep in a little room in a rental property we had for 2 years. But this summer when we came back, we got rid of almost all of that as well. We decided power tools and stuff that we didn't use for 2 years. You know, we don't need to hang on to them. If we ever need them again, we'll just go buy them or rent them, whatever that looks like. We just decided we didn't need them. But
no
we do
furniture
have,
or
no
anything.
furniture.
It's literally maybe like 6 totes of
keepsakes, like some memory type stuff.
dress.
We have it split up between different parents' house where we give them a tote or 2 each, so we don't overwhelm anybody. But we do store a few things, but almost everything we own is with us on our bus.
All right. What was your best high and lowest low? So we answer that one.
Sure.
What would you say is our highest high? I would say our winter in Florida, but I don't know.
Yeah, that was a pretty high. The other thing that the kids always talk about too is we had a week where we partnered up with a company in West Virginia, Ace Adventure Resort, and we got to do like every adventure you could think of with them. So rock climbing, rappelling, zip lining, whitewater rafting. We got this incredible week of adventures we did, and everybody still talks about how amazing that was.
Yeah, that was pretty great.
Yeah.
So we've had some good ones. Lowest of lows. We've had 2 major breakdowns. I would say this last one, probably, we had some trouble with a mechanic that took advantage of us and charged us a lot of money and was dishonest. And that was a pretty rough time.
And that was also, we were not in our bus. The other time we had our bus broke down, we actually got to stay in our bus while it was broke down. This time we were out of our bus. So we were scrambling each week. That's when she mentioned we bought a tent camp for a little while. Then we found like a cabin to rent for a week. We got through it. At the end, it's a memory created, I guess, but that was pretty tough time.
It was.
All right. So now I'm going to talk about, so again, these are like what we would consider the must-haves that were important to us on our bus that are still important to us today, and what you would want to think about, if you got into this lifestyle. So number one, our big thing, especially when we were looking for buses and what we wanted and all the different YouTube videos and stuff we watched, were we wanted to be off grid, and we wanted to be able to park our bus anywhere we wanted to. All these really cool free spots we saw, most of them don't have electric hookups. Most of them don't have water. So we wanted to have solar, and we wanted to have lots of solar, lots of water. So we have 3,150 watts of solar. We have a Victron system, works amazing. We very rarely ever have to even worry about plugging in. We can see where our energy levels are and everything. We also have 200 gallons of fresh water on board. So what I tell most people is we can literally fill up our water and we can go park somewhere, and for up to probably 2 weeks, we're good. We don't need to empty our tanks. We don't need to get more water, and we don't need electricity. So that's pretty cool that we can go stay somewhere. And if we really want to stretch it out, we can maybe go a little longer, but 2 weeks is about as far as we pushed it. Yeah. But those are for sure super must-haves for us. Internet's another thing. So we are talking today. Our internet hasn't been as reliable where we're at right now. So that's why we're not in our bus talking. But Starlink was a game changer for us. We struggled with an internet solution our first 6 months of bus life. Once we made the transition to Starlink, we have internet pretty much everywhere we go. So it does get spotty from time to time, but it always works.
It's not perfect, but it's the most reliable that we have found. And that keeps our kids happy too. So as much as we would like to say our kids are never on devices or TV, that's not true at all. They are. We get outside a lot and we do a lot, but they appreciate some screen time too. So that keeps everybody happy.
Yep. I'll cover the two water sources. So these are just really important for us too. So think about, we've been traveling all over the country. We've got water from all kinds of different places, and we use apps to find water. So sometimes we're filling up at gas stations, city parks, campgrounds, people's houses, wherever we can get water. We always plan for it. We always try to plan, where can we get water? It's always on our mind. So, but once it gets into our, we want to make sure it's safe, right? And we don't always know that. So our clear source water filter system is outside of our bus. That filters all our water before it even gets into our bus. So it's clean to drink. But then as an added measure, we also have a Berkey water filter. So any water we actually drink goes into our Berkey system. So our water is always safe. It always tastes the same. And our kids don't like to drink water out of anything else but our Berkey. So if you're looking at this lifestyle, I mean, that's a very important thing. Again, we need water to survive. You don't want to get sick from bad water. Those two things have really helped us.
The Instant Pot, that's one of our favorite ways to cook on the bus. We do have a stove, we have an oven, but we take advantage of the Instant Pot a lot. Another must-have, family of 6, washer and dryer. So we have a full-size washer and dryer on our bus, which is crazy to some people, but
it takes up a lot of space, but it's space well worth it.
It does. And for us, that's all we've ever known. And so we couldn't live without it. I mean, our trip to Texas right away, we were doing laundry and we're like, oh man, this is completely worth it. We don't have to go to the laundromat. Water usually isn't an issue for us. And just all the laundry that we go through with kids playing outside in the dirt all the time, it's been a must-have for us. So yes. The mini split is another one. So heating and cooling running off solar. Our mini split gives us some of that air conditioning when we get in those 100-degree temps. So as much as we try to follow the weather, there's always extreme cases, especially coming back to Iowa, things to see family where it's out of control. And the mini split has been great for us. We've got a Pioneer mini split inverter. Yep. Vitamix blender. The kids love smoothies. So that was something that we brought from home and just makes our life so much easier. We like to cook. We like to make good food. And then lastly is our beddies. So everybody in the bus has a beddies. If you haven't seen them before, they're like the zip up bedding. So it makes it super simple for our kids to make their beds. Which in a small space like this is key. They're not bulky. They don't take up a lot of room. If you go to our Instagram page, we do have a link in our bio to a lot of these things. If you have any questions, then you can ask us. But these are some of our favorite things. There's probably more, but.
Yep. All right. Favorite camping resources. So this, I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but it'll be there. They're on the slides if you guys need them later. So these are all the different things we use to find free camping. So I'm the one that does pretty much all the travel planning and finding the places to stay. And I've done a lot of research. I've gotten better over time, but I'm always trying to figure out, I want to stay in the best places, the coolest places, and the freest places if possible. So I'm always looking at a lot of options, talking to lots of people, asking questions. So Campendium, iOverlander, they're kind of the two main ones we use for just finding camping and finding boondocking spots that we can stay at long-term. RV Parky and Overnight Parking Walmart, those are more, we use those for overnight stops. So RV Parky is really good about saying, hey, you can stay at this store, you can stay at this rest area, this Loves, whatever that looks like. So if you're just looking for an overnight place to stay, there's good reviews on there. That's probably the best one I've found. Harvest Host, Boondocker Welcome. I don't know if anyone hasn't heard of that before. That's a unique, different place that we try to take advantage of whenever we can. We probably used it 25 or so times last year,
and the kids like those a lot.
Yeah,
a lot
it changes it up a little bit.
We try to make those, educational stops. It might be, we've done car museums, we've done maple syrup farms. Museums, history museums. Yep. So essentially
farms,
you
wineries,
get to
breweries,
stay for free overnight. And then you get to experience, you support the business and experience that. So we take advantage of a lot of that. And it's opened up new experiences again for the kids, unique experiences that you're not going to find your day-to-day life living in a house. So That's been fun.
Yeah, but then the other couple things I'll add here is we've also taken advantage of family and friends around the country that we've known, connections we've made. A lot of fellow nomads actually that we've met along the way. They've invited us to their places and stuff. So, and then social media. So we have been able to find some really cool free places all over the country. And then when we've never not had a place to stay. So as stressful as we get, our strategy is always to try to find a spot and then either have 1 or 2 backup spots just in case it doesn't work out. And so far, again, we've never had a night where we haven't had a place to stay, and we've never had our door knocked on either. We're always very careful about, with kids, the last thing you want is to get a door knock in the middle of the night and have someone tell you need to leave. So we always are really good about asking permission, making sure that we're okay and staying in a place that we're going to stay in. So.
All right, homeschool. I know there were some questions about this. So our home base is the state of Iowa, and each state is different when it comes to homeschool and your requirements. So lucky for us, Iowa is pretty lax. Essentially, we withdrew our kids, and this all happened during COVID. So that helped our transition a lot with the kids, is we were already homeschooling. So just making that little baby step right out of the bat, I think was helpful for everybody. That was one less thing that we had to change. However, I will say, when we started, our mindset was, oh gosh, like we have to get the school done. We have to do our reading or writing or science or history. And we were strict right out of the bat. It didn't last long. We realized that, we're giving our kids some incredible experiences by doing this.
And education.
It's just, yes, the education and the different way of learning. So we really took a step back a couple months in and, we relaxed and we just went with the fact of, unschooling, I would say, and letting kids, follow their passion. For example, our daughter has an account on Instagram called Bus Beads. So she started making these beads when we were broke down, actually, for the first time in California. Got my bracelets on. Yep. So if you ever see us, you'll see that we're all decked out in bracelets, but this is her passion. She's a crafty kid and she enjoys this. And she has a bus account called Bus Beads. She does all of her expense tracking. She has a debit card. She buys her own things for this. She corresponds back and forth with her customers. We go to post offices across the country. So
she manages her own social media accounts, creates reels, promotes herself, creates sets and sells them. She's shipped to almost I'd have to have her confirm, but she's almost shipped to every state now. I think she was up in like the 40s last time I checked, but it's really cool because that's just, she's learning about how to run a business at age 14.
So it's a different skill. I mean, we just say, these life skills that our kids are learning are invaluable. To be, to already know how to run a social media account and be successful and create all of these things, and then to run a business on her own. That's the perfect learning opportunity. So it doesn't feel like school, but gosh, what a great learning by experience and learning by doing things. So related to that, we always take advantage of learning opportunities. So we go to museums. We always do the Junior Ranger program through the National Park Service. So every national park or landmark or historical site has a Junior Ranger program. The kids can earn little badges and they do these little books. So it's just some of that. We try to relate things to our homeschool or to our life and what we're doing instead of feeling like it's a burden. We might have kids do research on something, or we'll read something or write something. But we really have just backed off on the traditional school and try to really, work with our kids individually and let them follow their dreams and their passions. And we encourage them to, find something that you love to do. Don't do something because it makes you the most money, or this is what everybody else says to do. So we're encouraging them to find their passions, follow their passions, and do what makes them happy. So for math, I'll mention, we use teaching textbooks for math for the older kids. It's 3rd grade and up, which has been awesome for us. We also do a little bit of Good and the Beautiful for curriculum. So.
All right. So last slide before questions. So again, this will be something you can get later, but we tried to kind of think about really what are the keys to the success that we've had as a family, right? So number one, this was our motto when we left, but it was adaptability. So we tried to set the expectation with our kids that, we don't have a plan. We have a general idea of what we want to do, but we don't have a plan, and our plan. So that means it could change at any time. Be expecting it, right? Be ready for it. And just, we always have this, things are going to happen, but it's all about how you adapt and how you react. And that's really been a mindset of ours, is we're going to adapt to whatever situation we end up in ourselves, and we're going to make the most of it. And it's worked really well. So involve your kids. We say in planning here, but I would just say involve them in everything you can, give them some input. It's neat to hear their opinions, right? You can still make the decision, but it's great to involve them so they know what's going on. They know where we're going to see. They can look at it themselves. They can create their own ideas and things that they want to do. Just whenever you can involve your kids, they're people too, right? They have opinions and they want to feel importance and they want their voice to be heard. So we try to make that a part of our family. So.
Yep. Friends and events, those really come together. But that was when I said we sold our house July 26, 2021. That date was in our head because our first goal, and we knew the key to its success with our kids was to create friendships and opportunities to make friends. There's a whole community of people out there, just like us, families that are traveling, that are nomadic, and to just have those people that are like-minded and think like us. It's been huge. The kids look forward to meeting up with friends, and they stay in touch, and we try to track each other and where they're going. But they still have their friends back home, but their friends on the road are their friends that really they can relate to, and they look forward to seeing the most. So events are fantastic too. That's how we meet tons of people. The kids meet tons of people. It's like going to camp with your family. We were at Skoolie Swarm this year in Florida, and it literally just felt like camp.
Well, they literally have it at a place where they have a church camp, right? So it was a camp. But
but things like that, our kids, they're already planning, and looking forward to, when do we get to go to the next event? So that's important to our kids. So we make sure that we make that an important part of our lifestyle, and our goals is to get to those events, make friends, and continue to build those relationships. So,
setting goals and celebrating. That's been another fun thing. So we had our original goals that we want to make it to every state. We want to get to as many national parks as we can. And some of the things we've done just to make it fun and celebrate that is we have a magnet on our fridge for every state. So every time we go into a new state and we'd stay the night, we'd do something, which were our requirements for checking a state off. We'd go and we'd buy a magnet, and then we would put the sticker on our bus, right? So we were always celebrating that. Every time we go to put a sticker on our bus, and we just put the 48 sticker on our bus, just a couple months ago, everybody gets excited and celebrates that. So, and then as silly as it is, I always try to use terms like adventure and, keeping things fun. I think the older kids, it drives them a little nuts, but we want to try to make them get excited about things as much as we can. So getting outside, living in a 270 square foot space with 6 people, and we have a dog and a cat too, it can be pretty daunting sometimes. You can't get away. There's no space. There's no privacy. So the more you can get outside and get out into the space, and that's what we love about our backyards always changing, is we have, we may live in a small space, but we have these huge backyards that we can go exploring as we travel. So that's been very important too. And just, we're big on, if we're starting to get on each other's nerves, we're like, let's go outside. Let's go do something.
Let's go do something. Staying busy is one of the keys to our success. It's when we stay put someplace for too long, or we're in the bus for too long, that we all start to get a little antsy and irritable. So the key for us is we stay busy. I mean, we do a ton of hiking, a lot of outdoor adventures, and we just stay busy. So,
So, and the last thing I guess I'll mention here on my end is just the letting the kids. This is something that especially I needed right away, because I have all these ideas, all these adventures planned. I want to do everything, and I know we can't. But we started letting the kids set the pace a little bit more, especially on hikes. And we always joke that however long All Trails says to do a hike, multiply it by 3, and that's about what it's going to take us. So if it's a 30-minute hike, it's going to take us an hour and a half. And after we kind of just started letting the kids, like if they want to stop and climb on a rock, if they want to have a snack, if they want to throw rocks in the water, whatever that is, we just let them do that. They have so much more fun on the hikes than if we're just like, no, we got to get to this viewpoint, or we got to get to this spot, right? So that's helped a lot. It took especially me to adjust to it, but now that it's been adjusted to, it's worked well.
Yep. Have fun. I mean, that's the whole reason that we do this, that family time and just making everything fun. We try to keep everything lighthearted. We try to make things as fun as we can for the kids. And don't forget the snacks.
I did that once. It doesn't end well. So always make sure with kids, you have plenty of snacks. I think any parent would probably agree with that statement in any aspect of your life with kids. So. All right. So that is basically it, guys. So if you want to connect with us, here's some ways you can do it. So we are the Hocking Adventure Bus. We're on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. We also have a website, thehockingadventures.com, that you can check out. And as a special for anybody that's in attendance today, so anybody that would be interested in a more in-depth coaching or consulting session with us, where we will actually walk you through it. Basically, we're an open book. We'll answer any question you have for us. We'll give you any resources that we've used. You can sign up for that, and it's going to be a 50% discount. Just message us and let us know that you're in our session. It's normally $100 for an hour. It's going to be $50 for anybody that was in attendance here today. Plus, I know they're going to be doing a giveaway for a free session, I think a little later as well. Check out our website, and then don't forget Project Van Life, that all access pass that they have right now. I think it's like $37 through the end of the day today. You get lifetime access to all this content that you've seen over the last 3 days. So we're just one of like 32 or so speakers, I think. So I'd say just the value is there. It's well worth it to be able to sign up for that and have all that content for life. So I will now open it up to any questions anybody has. So I know there was another question that came through from Inked in Color. Where do we find our events?
That's a tricky one. I don't know that we've found any one solution to that. I feel like things are always popping up. So if anybody else has a suggestion of a catch-all, we just start to follow all of these places online. So in our world, Northwest Nomads, Skoolie Palooza, Skoolie UP, Skoolie Swarm.
Those are the main ones. There's
Descend on Bend.
We haven't been to it, but we've heard about it. We'd love to go there sometime. What are the van? Then there's all kinds of different van life. There's events. If you just Google events, a lot of times you're going to find stuff. If you're on social media cruising around, just save the stuff as you find it and ask other nomads if they know of any events, and they can tell you, and just kind of build your list. And we've been to several. We try to go to them every few months, just because, again, it helps us meet a lot of new people, and it's like a reunion for our kids and some of the friends they met along the way. So
yep, definitely. All right. Any other questions?
All right. I don't see anything added to the comments. So I think we'll go ahead then and we'll get it wrapped up. Thank you guys so much for giving us some time. I hope that you were able to learn something. If there's anything we didn't cover that you'd like to know more about, message us on social media. Kara, she's very good at responding to all that. I'm not on it as much, but she manages our page and she does a really good job with all that stuff. Check out our pages as well. You can see what our adventures have been like. Hopefully we'll see you guys out there on the road.
Kate wants to know where the kids are. So they're actually in the bus. We're not, because our internet connection goes out every once in a while.
Yeah.
So
we're actually staying close to Kara's mom's house. So we actually, she went over to the bus, and I think they might even be watching it. She went over to the bus with the kids to hang out with them, and we took over her house and kicked her out for a little bit. So, thank you, Brenda.
Yep. All right. Thanks, you guys. Give us a holler. We would love to hear from you.
Bye.